when I was about 6 months pregnant, I was walking to work and I was wearing a slightly impractical pair of shoes, like a kind of high wedge heel. And unsurprisingly, because you know, one of the many things they don't tell you about pregnancy is also it just fucks up your balance amongst everything else. And I went over on my ankle. I fell on my belly. And when I got to work later, I mentioned this, and Cindy actually said, "Go to the doctor, check you're okay." And I was like, oh, okay. So I call my gynecologist and I say, you know, I'm sure that, you know, I fell over this morning, and you know, is that okay? And she's like, no, it's not okay. You have to come get checked. And so I go and get checked, and cut a long story short, it's all fine. You know, I'm totally fine. It's okay. My ankle hurts a bit, and at the end of the appointment, I said to her, so you know, okay, I'm glad I'm fine. Is there anything I should just know? Anything I should do going forward? And she goes, well, you know, apart from like maybe not wearing 3-inch wedge heels when you're 6 months pregnant, she goes, no, it's fine. Just carry on, you know, with the normal stuff. You know, your dietary restrictions and stuff like that. And I say, what dietary restrictions? And she says, what do you mean? What dietary restrictions? And there's like one of those moments that I think, okay, this is a moment, and it's clear that she's thinking, what is this woman? And don't be, like, obviously, I know I'm not eating unpasteurized cheese, but you know, like there's a lot of other shit. You know, you're supposed to apparently not be having caffeine and some kind of weird forms of shellfish that. I just didn't. The point was, she'd assumed that I was reading my first non-recommendation. She'd assumed I was reading What to Expect When You're Expecting, or all those websites, or all those other books, that I was really consciously not reading at all. And it wasn't just negligence, I was consciously not looking at this stuff. And the reason I was not looking at this stuff goes to the heart of how I think I deal with being a leader and being a parent, which is I am a very unperfectionist parent. And I think that it's interesting this, because I think Nancy and I are sounding quite different, although I completely respect and agree with what she's saying as well. I just think my attitude to parenting is that, like, it's impossible. So I think it's completely infinite. And also I think already my job is infinite. Like, literally, there's ever more stuff you could do. So now I'm adding this other thing, which is impossible and infinite. And so I can't do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat it, as one of my friends once said to me about parenting, it's like a damage limitation exercise. So have you ever met anyone who's like really, really happy, satisfied and well balanced? Because I haven't. So your kid's therefore not going to be that either. So what you want is them not to be in jail. So go for that. And, no, it sounds like stupid, but I'm really serious about this. So I think there's a lot of stuff out there that is all about being really, really excellent at parenting, and I don't try and do it. So I don't want you to misunderstand this as the most important thing in my life is my children, which it is. I'm not, you know, saying it for laughs. I mean it really profoundly. I don't do that stuff. And I don't, by the way, it's the same with the work thing. I don't read all those how to be a great boss, how to be a fantastic leader, because it's exactly the same problem. Like, you know, they all disagree and I can't do it anyway. So very pragmatic. I don't do that. So that's my first thing. Secondly, though, so I don't read that stuff. Oh, by the way, what I do though, like Nanny 911. Yay, that's the way to get parenting advice. It's really excellent, because not only does it give you really practical tips that actually work, but also it's TV, you know, it's a show, and also shit parents. Like, so, you know, like you're watching these cases, and no matter how much you think you haven't quite got it right, there's this family that's just totally going out of control, so you feel like, yes, I've got it covered better than I thought. What I do read, though, I do recommend you reading, not necessarily exactly this, but stuff like this. This is the brilliant autobiography of Katharine Graham. She is the first female Fortune 500 CEO in this company. She was the CEO and the head of the board at the Washington Post company, well, including in the time in the 1970s when Watergate went down. So you can imagine, like, we have quite stressful jobs. She had a really stressful job, and she had a really complicated life as well. Her husband committed suicide, her dad gave, anyway, there's loads of stuff. This is the 1970s, and she's the first Fortune 500 CEO. Like, being a female leader is, we're in beta. there isn't a model, there isn't a right. Listen to how much we've said different stuff already and really embrace that about how to do it all, because we're not saying the same thing. So find the one that you want, because there's no right models, because none of us have got a clue. So just, no, go for it. It's good. It's good that there isn't perfection, and you can't find perfection. You can just find your way. This is a summary of, it's a really thorough and really approachable summary of all the supposed science of male-female differences. It just blows out the water the supposed innate differences between men and women and maleness and femaleness, including all that brain chemistry shit about, you know, dispersed thinking and diffuse thinking versus focused thinking and everything. And the reason it's so fantastic and empowering to read stuff like that, to read the fact stuff, I just feel like we get caught in so much stuff which is about there is an innate truth about what women can do because they're female. And what this basically is all about is femaleness and femininity is so much more a cultural and a societal construct. The brain is plastic. Anyone who reads the behavioural therapist stuff will tell you the brain is plastic. Our behaviours are modifiable. So what we've achieved so far and what we can achieve, like there is no indicator in the past as to what we can do in the future. And I just like that vibe. So, I realised, there's something I was going to say actually.
Delusions of gender.
It's called Delusions of Gender. I also think it's interesting, two things that are coming out of the themes of other people talking. One is about place and one is about time. I don't think there's any getting away from a couple of unpalatable truths in, do you want to do the full family, children thing and a career thing? One is, it is easier in certain environments than others. You know, there's no getting away from it. Like, it can be the company and the culture of the company. Like, I feel that's the case in my company. It can be your leader. It can be like your manager, or you can be your group. It's what we say, what Nancy describes at Goodby is not necessarily the same everywhere. And just know and make your choices accordingly. It's my honest truth. And the other thing is timing. The other thing, I don't like saying these two things, but I think they're both practical. And the timing one is, you know, I had my kids when I was already like a kind of at least a head of department. And if you've already made your success to some degree, you have some reputation, you have some credibility, it is easier to make things work around you than not. And I say, the reason I hate saying this, of course, it's like essentially saying delay something that's really important. And I don't really have the right to tell you to do that. That's your thing. But it's an undeniable truth that, you know, if Nancy or Lynn or I, you know, if someone says, you know, you need to meet at 6:30 or 7, it's easier for us to say, I can't do it today, we'll do it at 9 tomorrow, than it is for the account manager that's 3 years in the business or that's just joined BBH and we don't know yet what they are. As I say, I don't say that proudly, I just say it honestly. It's a truth. This is actually a book that it's called The Firstborn. It's a book that was given to my husband when my first child was born, Dora, that I nearly fell over on top of on the pavement. It's a very, very moving book. The point about it is, Damien said to me afterwards that it inspired him to be really, really actively engaged and accountable. The stuff that Sheryl Sandberg says about how partner choice helps. If you have a partner, if you're lucky to have a partner in your home relationship, one that helps, that is actively accountable for some stuff, as opposed to just gives you all that shit about, oh, I really support you, I really support you. Like, that is useless. What is helpful is, I will do this. I will take responsibility for, you know, X, Y, Z, or I would be prepared to put your career before mine, or you need to agree this stuff. And getting someone to help you means getting someone to agree what they're going to do, not just to say nice, supportive things. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, my partner says they really support my career. Yeah. And are they coming home at 6:30 when you need to, or are they doing something for you, or are they prepared to not take their promotion or their move because of yours? It comes down to actions. And then finally, this is Half the Sky. I bet half of you have read Half the Sky already. I guess I would just always tell people to read it. This book is it's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant book. It's a really page-turningly fantastic book. A couple of Pulitzer Prize-winning writers. It's about what they describe as the dominant human rights issue of our time, which is the mistreatment and oppression of women in the developing world. And aside from the fact that I just feel like it's so important, we should all read it. It's super, super cool, non-partisan, sort of not like yeah, it's just not exploitative. It just also puts it all in perspective. I think another thing I feel about how I do things, you can hear like basically what I do is kind of have a certain attitude. That's really all I have. And part of my attitude is, come on, like we don't have big problems really. You know, we have first world problems, we have high quality problems, and a lot of women have much, much bigger, more profound stuff. And aside from that to say, I think it's worth carrying. It's like keeps it in perspective. I think. Also, your kids keep in perspective. My daughter goes to me the other day when I was saying, I'm doing this talk, you know, and it's about women and their roles and episodes. And I take this quite seriously now. You might think it's funny, Dora, but it's quite important to me. And she looked at me and she's like, well, okay, well. I said, well, don't you think it's quite important? Yeah, well, yeah, it's not like you do anything important. You work in advertising. So I was like, okay, yeah, all right, fair enough as well.